Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this man back, the founder of the Article 3 Project, article3project.org. It's Mike Davis. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm at the Trump campaign headquarters in West Palm Beach.
Nice.
And President Trump just had an amazing victory last night, so we're in good spirits down here in West Palm Beach.
I watched the BBC, and I guess you're going to be the Attorney General soon, then.
Well, there's this whole pesky thing called Senate confirmation, and I used to be the staff leader for that, and I can assure the world, including the Brits, there's zero chance I will get confirmed to anything because, as you can see from my Twitter feed at any given time, I'm just too charming. So
yeah, no, I think that's what it is. They said that, too charming, Mike Davis. Mike, you and I have been talking now for 4 straight years about this lawfare. They have brought lawfare like crazy. Before I get into the idiosyncrasies of the individual cases that I think are all going to go away, but you can verify that, can you tell me why Fulton County reelects Fani Willis or Fani, whatever the hell her name is? She won re-election last night, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, remember in D.C., you had the D.C. mayor, and I'm blanking on the guy's name, but he got caught with the prostitute smoking crack.
Marion Barry, yeah.
Marion Barry said, bitch, set me up, and got reelected. So it doesn't surprise me that these third world Marxist hellholes elect their third world Marxist hellhole leaders.
I mean, this is somebody who I thought was probably going to be launched out of office because of how corrupt she is, and the voters there somehow voted her back in. It blows my mind. Does her case go away? Does Jack Smith? Jack Smith's gone because he was not legally even put in place anyway, and the DOJ is going to go to Trump now. I mean, what happens now with these cases?
Yeah, Jack Smith sees the writing on the wall. He had Judge Cannon throughout his case in Florida. His D.C. case got ensnarled in this pesky thing called presidential immunity by the Supreme Court of the United States. So Jack Smith is bowing out. He knows that on January 20th at noon, he would be fired and his office would be shut down. So he's smart enough to get the hell out of there before Trump's people do. With Fani Willis.
But before we move on to Fani, just on Jack Smith, you're the one who educated me on his history. He was a failure with McConnell or McDonald, whatever the guy's name was, but he was actually successful because he made the guy lose the election in Virginia. So has his role, Mike, in your opinion, always been stop Trump from winning? Because he failed again, but is that what it was?
It's very obvious. Remember, before the election, they said that no election matters for the purposes of this prosecution, that we're going to move forward no matter what, the election be damned. And now after the election, after Trump won in a decisive victory, they decide what they want to shut down this case. What changed? I thought the election didn't matter. It's very clear that what Jack Smith and Merrick Garland and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were doing was running blatant lawfare and election interference against President Trump for the non-crime of objecting to a presidential election, which is what the D.C. case is. You're allowed to object under the Electoral Count Act of 1887 and the First Amendment. We don't see Democrats in prison for objecting to Republican wins in 1968, 2000, 2004, 2016. The fact that Jack Smith announced today he's bowing out shows you how political his prosecution is. And frankly, when Trump's back in office, his Justice Department needs to open probes on day one on this blatant lawfare, this blatant election interference against President Trump. This is very destructive, what these Biden and Kamala Democrats have done to our country, and there must be consequences. Legal,
I think you're reading my mind, Mike, because I was going to go there. I mean, if he bows out today, which he did, and isn't smart enough to wait until January 20th, which he should have, it's basically an admission that this was all about the election. You bow out the day after the election, you're saying, okay, whatever we were trying didn't work. So are there ramifications? You said open an investigation. What can happen? Is this illegal prosecution? Is this prosecutorial misconduct? What is this?
There's a lot that's going on. There are ethics issues with Jack Smith and his team. There are malicious prosecution issues, and there are criminal issues. If you are politicizing and weaponizing intel agencies, law enforcement to go after your political enemies for non-crimes, that is a very serious criminal enterprise that you're engaged in. At a minimum, it's 18 U.S.C. Section 241, conspiracy against rights. When you're punishing your political opponents because you disagree with their politics, that's certainly a constitutional violation, and that's a very serious federal crime.
When we say lawfare, that in and of itself, it's a term that we've been using a lot lately, but I don't know that it's a legally defined term. Maybe it is. But if you're using lawfare by the Constitution, that's illegal already. How are they able to get away with all this, Mike?
Well, they were able to get away with this because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Merrick Garland and Lisa Monaco and these other bad actors in the Justice Department allowed them to do this. Like, as you said, Jack Smith got reversed unanimously by the Supreme Court in the Governor Bob McDonnell case. This is the Virginia governor who got charged with bogus corruption charges because he was a likely presidential or vice presidential contender in 2016, I believe. And he was convicted by Jack Smith, got a conviction against him. That conviction was taken up on appeal to the Supreme Court. Jack Smith got beat 9-0 at the Supreme Court, reversed 9-0. The Supreme Court says there's not a corruption crime here, that you just made this up. But guess what? The damage was done. Jack Smith ruined Governor Bob McDonnell's presidential or vice presidential aspirations. That's the same thing that Jack Smith just attempted to do against President Trump, and it backfired spectacularly on him. And we made damn sure of that at the Article 3 Project by using our megaphone to expose his bad faith antics.
Article3project.org. He is the founder and the boss over at the Article 3 Project. Mike Davis. Follow him, MRDDMIA, over on X and also on Truth. When it comes to Merrick Garland, I feel like the guy can be brought up on charges, but maybe that's wishful thinking. When you see Jack Smith incorrectly, when you pretend like, well, Jack Smith's just a guy, it wasn't specifically him for a reason, that maybe he can talk his way out of. The Matthew Colangelo piece, the number 3 guy at the DOJ, suddenly dropping his resume and deciding, I'll just take a big demotion and go to a local DA's office to go prosecute Trump. Is there anything illegal there that Merrick Garland might have done?
Look, I would say this. Merrick Garland has a lot of legal exposure. Remember, there's contempt of Congress. He ignored a congressional subpoena, and he put Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, 2 of President Trump's top aides, two of his top advisors, in prison for 6 months, or 4 months, excuse me, for ignoring congressional subpoenas for contempt of Congress. That seems like a likely criminal investigation of Merrick Garland. But the bigger problem is there is an obvious conspiracy driven by Joe Biden and his White House, and Joe Biden's fingerprints are on all 4 of these unprecedented criminal prosecutions of President Trump. This lawfare, this election interference. It was Jonathan Sue, President Biden's deputy White House counsel, who waived Trump's claim of executive privilege on behalf of Biden that led to the Mar-a-Lago raid, that led to those 2 criminal prosecutions by Jack Smith.
Right.
It was Matthew Colangelo, a number 3 senior political appointee to President Biden, who got deployed to the Manhattan DA's office to bring the first indictment ever against a former and likely future president for the non-crime of a businessman settling a nuisance claim and putting it into his private books as a legal expense. I don't know what the hell else you would call it. And then with Nathan Wade, Fani Willis's dumb, unqualified boyfriend in Fulton County, Georgia, he was stupid enough to actually bill Fulton County taxpayers 16 hours, $250 an hour, $4,000 to Fulton County taxpayers for Nathan Wade's 2 meetings with the Biden White House, including the White House counsel.
That's really dumb. That is dumb. Yeah.
Fani Willis brought those charges. So it's 4 for 4 that Biden has his fingerprints all. To me, this is a criminal conspiracy. They are all politicizing and weaponizing the Justice Department and these local DA's office, making up charges to go after their political opponent simply because he's their political opponent.
It's Mike Davis, MRDDMIA, over on social media. Go follow the Article3Project.org and make sure that you donate and keep them up and running. It's a great organization that really cares about the Constitution run by this man. So we know that Jack Smith's cases are gone. What happens with Fani Willis?
Well, here's the problem with Big Fani. When she hired her dumb, unqualified boyfriend, Nathan Wade, who was dumb enough to bill his time for his meetings with the Biden White House, he also had a small problem where Big Fani paid him $700,000 in Fulton County money, and then she allegedly took kickbacks from Nathan Wade in the form of lavish trips around the world, right?
Right.
Her secret boyfriend, who she improperly hired, was taking her to Belize, to Napa, the Caribbean. Remember,
Oh, yeah.
Big Fanny's a Grey Goose girl. Well, guess what? Then she lied about that in front of the judge. The judge is a little weakling, this judge in Fulton County who was scared to lose his job. And so what did he do? He disqualified the office, but not Fani Willis. Well, that's not how the law works. And so the Georgia Appellate Court is going to disqualify the entire Fulton County office. This case will get dismissed and reassigned to another district attorney in Georgia, and no other district attorney in Georgia in their right mind will bring these charges again because they're bogus charges. It's not a crime to object to a presidential election.
It is Mike Davis, Article3Project.org, MRDDMIA over on social media. The last case we talk about, and Mike, very well said, by the way. Thank you for always being so clear on this stuff. The last case we have to talk about is this one that Judge Marchand has not given final justice yet, so people calling Trump a convicted felon are wrong. He hasn't accepted the jury verdict yet. He accepted it, but he hasn't done final justice. What does he do now? Can he say, because of circumstances, case dismissed, because of circumstances, the appellate court can do what they want to do? What happens with that one?
There are so many reversible legal errors in that case. Remember, this is where President Trump settled a nuisance claim 7 years prior, put it in his private books as a legal expense. I don't know what the hell she would call it other than a legal expense.
It was, yeah.
And then somehow that turned into 34 felonies after the prior Manhattan DA, Cy Vance, a Democrat, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney, the Federal Election Commission, and Alvin Bragg himself declined to bring these charges until Colangelo came from the Biden Justice Department to resurrect this zombie case. And there are so many reversible errors, but the key one for now is the Supreme Court's presidential immunity decision in June held that not only is the president immune from criminal prosecution for his official acts, not his personal acts, his official acts, you also can't take evidence of the president's official acts and use it in a criminal prosecution.
Right.
So President Trump's discussions with his top White House aides, Hope Hicks and Madeline, and I'm blanking on her last name, two deputy chiefs of staff in the White House, very senior jobs, the Alvin Bragg and Matthew Colangelo and this corrupt judge, Juan Merchan, took that evidence and the jury relied on that evidence to find Trump guilty. Well, that is going to require a mistrial on that issue alone. And I think Merchan is going to decide on that issue on November 12th. Remember, this is the same Democrat judge who donated to Biden, whose daughter, Lauren Merchan, is raising millions of dollars off of this case requiring Merchan's recusal. And in response to her recusal motion, Merchan put an illegal, unconstitutional gag order on Trump for merely raising this recusal issue. Look, if this case does not go away by Merchan, the Supreme Court of the United States is going to step in very, very quickly and slap down Merchan and end this nonsense.
Well, he might be stupid enough to, though, on the 12th to say prison. If he does that, does the Supreme Court get to rule before they lock him up and put him in prison?
So,
Mike, it sounds nuts, and I think that it would cause potentially a civil war, but he could do that.
Yeah, so what's going to just to be clear, on the 12th, he's going to rule on the presidential immunity issue.
Okay, all right.
And then on the 26th of November, I believe, is when he does the sentencing. So Merchan has 2 outs between.
So he could throw it out. He could throw it on the 12th.
He could throw it out on the 12th. If he does not throw this out on the 12th, if he actually moves forward and tries to put the president-elect of the United States in Rikers Island on November 26th, he, like you said, that would mean Juan Merchan is trying to cause a civil war.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It is Mike Davis, Article3Project.org. One last question, Mike, and I appreciate all the great information you've done. I know that you're burnt out, but it doesn't seem like it. You're still bringing it like you've always brought it. The Letitia James case, I'm buoyed by the Court of Appeals in New York. Those who are watching and listening, the Court of Appeals is actually the top court. The Supreme Court is beneath it in New York State, the New York State Supreme Court. I'm buoyed by what they did in that case. They were lighting up the prosecution's, all of her assistant DAs or assistant AJ, where the hell they were. The prosecutors in that case, by the end of it, were almost begging the Court of Appeals to not sanction them because of how bad that case was. I don't think they've thrown it out yet, but it seems like they will. What do you think is going to happen there?
Big Tish James is the New York Attorney General who tried to go after Trump for fraud, saying that, for example, that Trump overvalued Mar-a-Lago, that Mar-a-Lago is only worth like $18 million.
Yeah.
This is the most prime real estate in the world. I'm down here now in Palm Beach. Trump has like 20 acres of the most prime real estate in the world. It touches both the Atlantic Ocean and the intracoastal waterway. I think it's the only property that does it. This property is worth well over $500 million, if not closer to $1 billion. A tennis court at Mar-a-Lago is worth more than $18 million. And Tish James thinks that there's somehow fraud here because Trump supposedly didn't value Mar-a-Lago at $18 million, and these sophisticated Wall Street banks somehow got duped, even though Trump paid them back in full, on time, as agreed.
With interest.
It's utter nonsense. It's so crazy that even the Democrat-appointed judges on the New York appellate division is going to reverse what Big Tish did down here with Arthur Ingwan, this whack job Manhattan judge. And I would say to Big Tish, I don't know if you saw this press conference earlier, but she went out there and doubled down. She did a press conference
today.
Yes, essentially saying that she's going to move forward against President Trump. Election be damned. I would say this to Big Tish: you could also find yourself on the other end of a criminal probe for conspiracy against rights under 18 USC Section 241. So you may want to think about that, sweetheart, before you move forward with this very dangerous persecution of the president-elect of the United States.
And by the way, I don't think she can. If the appellate court throws it out, she's done, isn't she? Or is she going to try the case again? What is she talking about?
She's as loud as she is dumb. So who knows what is in that little pea brain that she has up there? But she's a complete moron, like the rest of these Democrat prosecutors. And I would say this: they should seriously lawyer up, because there must be consequences, political, legal, and financial consequences to this criminal conspiracy, to this obvious election interference, this lawfare, this violation of President Trump's constitutional rights.
Mike, I got to go. Give me just a yes or no. Does Joe Biden pardon himself and his family?
If I were Joe Biden, you should, because they are running a criminal enterprise with the Biden family. $20 million plus going into their bank accounts. What are they selling?
No, exactly right. Article3project.org, MRDDMIA. Mike, thanks so much for your hard work, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much.
All right, brother. We're back after this. Stay right here.